good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're at right now. I'm the Expert Layman, and I am going to have a lot of fun talking about Smite Spec and Gladiator Spec. I'm going to start off with the Gladiator Spec. These are uncommon specs. Or better to say builds, because the talents on my Gladiator Warrior aren't actually that different from your standard off-tank stuff. It's more in the gear you choose and how you play it. I was going to have something open and I completely forgot. I am doing some pretty incredible things with the spec. Just take me a second, because I left my link in Discord, and now Discord is opening, but I suppose I can show the talents that I'm using. So you gotta switch over to the left side of my screen. So yeah, I am 41 points of protection. For this to work, you have to have Devastate, which requires 41 points. And obviously Impale, that 20% increased critical strike damage is very important. And since there's nothing else really great down there, just grab the 3 points in Cruelty. Now, let me open this up. I should have had this open already. And I'm going to have to create a new window capture. Way behind here. Oh, hey. Well, that works. This is what I did in Zulamon last time I was in there. This, obviously, this is the Gladiator Warrior symbol. And I did 1100 DPS average for all boss fights, which puts me, for my bracket, at 99%. Which, it should say 100. I'm not sure why it's saying 99. Because this DPS... Oh, no, probably because it was using something for a different fight. At any rate, for Zulamon, my top... if you take my top parses for Zulamon, I am... For Phase 5 in Zulamon, number 5 in the world for Gladiator Warriors, and for my bracket, number 1. It's a much fairer parse because nobody's building a raid out of trying to pump a Gladiator Warrior, and I did not have all that many. Okay, creepy ad on the right over here. That doesn't do it. But I tried every DPS spec available out there and did my best to optimize them, which I'm pretty good at doing. And I could only see 10 to 15% more damage output from a pure DPS spec. Now, I suppose I should show my gear. And item level's not that high. It's 432. For some reason, I am in defensive stance. 30% crit. I'm currently rocking no buffs. 30% crit. 162 hit. I'm sort of done with him. I should check my audio, make sure that I'm coming through. And there we go. I'm sort of done with the warrior for this expansion because there's really no... There are upgrades from badge gear, but I'll be replacing crit with haste, and with this build, the haste isn't that beneficial, and the gear isn't that much better. So, strength and crit. And strength is much better than attack power because of vitality, which basically works the same as improved berserker stance. That just 10% on your attack power, so it'll boost gear that has attack power on it or that has strength on it. But as a Gladiator Warrior, it only works on your strength. And a lot of PvP gear, no, obviously not that piece, but A lot of the PvP gear will have strength on it. Sitting at 490 armor pen. And the fact that I take 2600 armor pen with me wherever I go helps a lot. These are really, really nice. This is what I dumped my marks or badges on these. And this, which is basically identical to this out of ZA. They didn't even bother to change it that much. As you can see, my gear is not, like, incredible, but I can do a lot with it. Part of the reason I like this is because the crit does a lot more for me. It seems to do a lot more for me than attack power, and that is just a buttload of hit. Armor pen. Damn it. There's a ZA for me in my guild right now, and I really want to go, but I'm kind of in the middle of something right now. I should check. Okay. Yeah, being able... The real utility comes in the fact that I can... let me go back to my other screen. Oh, well, I'll just do it. I have a macro that will let me engage emergency tank mode. What that is if I click left once, because I play on a gamepad, so if I click left once on the directional pad, it will, if I'm in combat, it'll use a macro to swap out my main hand, offhand, and ranged weapon. If I hit it a second time consecutive, it'll put me in defensive stance, but if I hit a third consecutive time within like a half second, it will do both those things, and it will activate my shield wall and last stand and this trinket, which will, depending on how I'm buffed, take me up to 20,000 health with 75% damage reduction for all sources on top of the mitigation I have already. So when I hit the button, hit the macro, it swaps these out. And it's like, okay, so big deal. Well, what that does is put me at 5.2% crit avoidance and 0.4 crit avoidance from defense. And if you add those together, that is 5.6. That makes me uncrittable by a raid boss. Also, unbuffed, it bumps me up to 12,000 health. So with Fortitude and Kings, that will easily put me over 20k with my last stand and trinket. So, even against a raid boss, if the tank goes down, I can, for about 10 to 15 seconds, function as a godlike tank to keep them, either keep the boss busy long enough to get a battle res on the tank and back into the action, assuming the boss is tauntable, which a lot of them aren't, but some are, or just to keep the boss from tearing through all the other DPS long enough to perhaps finish a fight. Very useful. It's come up a couple of times. It feels awesome to save a wipe. But I triggered a rogue in my guild. Because I dared make the comparison between a 5-stack of Sunder armor and an improved exposed armor, which the improved exposed armor, if 5 points are applied, gives 3,075 armor pen, as opposed to the 5-stack of Sunder, which gives 2,600 armor pen, which is, what is that about 3 to 5, 2 to 5, depending on the situation, 2 to 5% more damage. Like, the 5-stack of Sunder will give between like 15 and 20% compared to no Sunder stack. And the exposed armor will give a couple more than that. So in a 25-man raid setting, that's clearly better. In 10-mans, where you may not have that rogue, it's awesome. If you don't have the rogue, I'm basically boosted all the physical damage done by the group by 15 to 20%. That is really useful, and it's been really useful in ZA. So it's kind of Did I close that? So when you look at these numbers again, well, not the elemental shaman, but the if you knock 15% off of the other warrior's damage, and 15% off of his damage, and 15% off of his damage, this meter would look very different if my Sunder Armor effect only benefited me. So I'm doing, this much, but I'm also increasing the other physical damage dealers, which there were actually several of them, by 15 to 20%. So the amount of damage that I brought to this raid was probably, well, the other warrior had the better battle shout, so that was his contribution. But I probably brought at least 2,000 DPS to this Suleiman. Very, very useful in 10 mans. And I have my tank set, so I can... I'm a full-fledged tank with about 16,000 health, and I'm just a little shy there, but this ring... Oh, wait, where is this one? This ring is amazing. That is so much stamina. And since I'm using trinkets that just give avoidance, and good avoidance, not block. Not that block is bad, it's just compared to parry and dodge that are complete mitigations, and one of them actually increases your threat generation. Parry and dodge are just so much better than block. So, moving some points out of defense and into dodge and parry, by use of a resilience ring with a crap load of stamina, this seems like a good move. So, yeah, I actually got to run a Suleiman as DPS the whole time. That was pretty fun. But this rogue was so triggered about, like, that I might be possibly floating the idea that Sunder armor is a good alternative if expose armor isn't available. And then I looked at it. It's like, well, I thought that it was it gave the same amount of armor penetration no matter how many points you used, but more points made a longer duration. That is not how it works. The more points, the more armor pen. So 4 combo point expose armor offers less armor pen than a 5 stack of Sunders. So they can't even apply the debuff until they've got 5 combo points on the target. Whereas Sunder spam is the thing, I'm spamming Devastate, and I can spam it right from the get-go, so I'm only 5 globals away from having the full stack. And it doesn't reduce my damage output. It's a byproduct of, spamming Devastate is my primary damage. So I get it up quicker. I don't have to sacrifice any DPS to get it up. And in fights where you are against a single, a tank and spank, where, it's just every 30 seconds you can reapply it, definitely better with the exposed armor. But if you're in a situation where you have to keep applying it, or you're switching targets, and it may not live long enough to be worth blowing 5 combo points for the maximum exposed armor, whereas I'm going to be applying them regardless. There are a lot of situations, and I didn't think this at first, but after digging into it more, where it is, it would be better, or at least comparable, to have a 5 stack of Sunder armor, considering it's only, 475 more armor pen with the 5 stack. And then, the rogue's DPS is reduced because those energy and combo points are turned into their own damage. So overall, it's awfully close to being a wash depending on the situation. And I didn't think it was that close, and I was wondering why this rogue got all triggered. And now I realize, oh, it's closer than I thought. That's probably why he's... It's weird when you get people that get, like, insecure people that feel threatened by you, and then they decide to, like, follow you around in Discord trying to poop on what you're saying or spam what you're posting away. And I'm not just talking about this guy. And then, like, follow you into raids and try to undermine your ability to do damage. It's petty, like, beta stuff. Imagine gimping your own DPS just so that you can gimp somebody else's. Like, it's not a healthy state. Like, in Karzan, using his energy and combo points to do an improved exposed armor, which prevents me from stacking Sunder, and the more Sunders that I have stacked, the more damage my Devastate does. So he literally, and I'm sure he knows how this works, and it was all about, like, not letting me do as much damage, but being willing to give his own damage just to knock me down a peg, and that's kind of the psychology. Damn, they're still looking for DPS for ZA. But I still have to get to the Smite Priest, and I think that I will go ahead and do that now. I figured this is a nice little backdrop of Magister's Terrace. I do like the Zulaman gear. It looks pretty neat. Now, the Smite Priest is really exciting, and I'm far from done with him, mostly because the new badge gear is amazing. Because you need to do your absolute best to get spirit in every piece of gear, but you also need a lot of hit to really make it work. Let me go to... Okay. And at the badge bender, they actually have 3 pieces with spirit and hit on it, which is not something you find, like, elsewhere, really. Which gives me enough hit that I don't have to spend points in focus power. So here, I've tried so many different builds with this, and because this is really, really amazing for basically if you're farming or doing dailies, you cannot run out of mana. And in fights with ads, especially lots of ads, this is incredible because as long as you get a I've pulled, what is it, like 1400 DPS on, my God, I'm drawing a blank on the name. The demon in Karzan who just summons lots of imps. Wow, I'm drawing a blank. But at any rate, I can basically, if I'm killing them often enough to keep 100% uptime on my spirit tap. My spirit tap bumps me up to, well, with all the buffs, I'm getting approximately 400 mana per 5, 400 to 500 mana per 5. And say I'm at 500 mana per 5, I'm getting 100 mana per second. So what I can do is Holy Nova, either the healing or the damage from that will give me a free smite. The Holy Nova, free smite, Holy Nova, free smite, Holy Nova, free smite, and just do that endlessly for basically the whole fight. And do, like, crazy damage. But if you are on a boss fight with 0 ads, this doesn't do squat. And a lot of times people will come down, and I played with Power Infusion, a very nice trinket for 6 talent points, but it's really not worth the talent points. So I've, Unshakable Will, the threat reduction, a better buff. Inner Focus is nice, because, like, if you have to take, if I have so much, and I have no buffs right now, so, with just my own buff, I regenerate, over 100 mana per second in a, raid 10, even a 10-man situation. I'm probably rocking close to, I don't know, 700 mana every 5. If I send my Shadow Fiend in and just wand, I can top off all of my health. But then if you do a Inner Focus at the end of that and then cast, you only get pushed out of your non-casting mana regen if you consume mana. So the Inner Focus doesn't consume mana, and whatever I cast with the Inner Focus doesn't consume mana. And I will stay in the non-casting mana regen state until the next cast completes. So it's nice for having the free cast, and the 25% crit is, you know, kind of nice. But on a 3-minute cooldown, it's not that great. But extending your out of non-casting regen period is really nice. This is the improved Divine Spirit is a must. And I should go through the stats again. Okay, you want Spirit on everything you can get Spirit on, because you are, if you haven't stacked a bunch of Spirit, and you end up in a group or like in a 10-man where you're not getting any, or you're not getting much in the way of mana regen buffs, you will run into trouble. And you will be wanding long before the end of Prince. My last Karazhan, there was no Shaman, so I wasn't, you know, getting a mana totem. I was not getting the Blessing of Wisdom. Did not have a Shadow Priest. All I had for mana regen was a Judgment of Wisdom. Excuse me. And Kings, which is, you know, that's 10% more Spirit, so that, you know, that's something. Another 50 or 70 or whatever mana, or yeah, that helped, but it wasn't a lot. But I was able to spam Smite for the entire Prince fight, which actually went a little bit long because we had a DPS die right at the beginning to the first Shadow Nova. One thing that really helps, and I was waiting to go back to Smite for, is the Sorcerer's Alchemist Stone, because this gives you significantly more mana from your mana potions. The piece of gear that I got from the badge vendor, because I didn't have quite as many badges, is this, and that is a lot of Spirit, and that is gem slots, and that is a lot of hit rating. There are boots, and I believe a belt, or is it not shoulders? But I also got this because that is a bunch of hit rating. Because I'm not. Wait a minute. When I get that belt, it'll definitely put me up to 16, and I'll probably be able to switch my wand to something with some Spirit on it. But not if you can get your Spirit up without using this. Because if you compare it, like, what's better? 2% hit on, really, the only thing it really only matters on is your Smite. The 2% hit on Smite, or, you know, 1% spell damage and 1% crit. Like, if you think about trying to gem for spell damage and crit compared to gemming for chance to hit, it would take way more gems for each part of this than for this. And it is kind of debatable whether you want Surge of Light, 2 points in Surge of Light, or you would rather have 2 points in Force of Will, since this helps you spam Smite longer without running out of mana. This is the choice that I went with. I am very excited because, well, I do still have some healing pieces just because I can't sacrifice that much Spirit. And I'm using these because the only shoulders I have with Spirit on them are blue, and I think I can sacrifice a little bit of Spirit for a very nice set of shoulders. Yep. Holy damage on the Drape of Righteousness. But if you'll notice, basically everything else, and this is a really nice set. I know it's item level 100, but that is spell damage and Spirit, and spell damage and Spirit, plus spell bonus. With the set bonus, this is actually really nice that you can get Spirit and spell damage on the same thing. I'm running this right now just because I need the hit, but I think as I get those other spirit hit pieces out of the vendor, I will not need this anymore. Yeah, that was the other thing I got. But and this is another healing piece, but that is so much spirit. And, you know, spirit. But crit isn't bad, but you can't, as long as you got spirit, crit's no big deal, but having crit and spirit on the same piece is kind of rare. You're really dependent on raid buffs. Like, if I had a Shadow Priest, and in my group, if in my group I had a Shadow Priest, an Elemental Shaman, I had Blessing of Kings and Blessing of Wisdom, and a Judgment of Wisdom on the target, I could basically wear my Shadow gear, which is completely different. There's very little overlap between my Shadow DPS gear and my Smite gear. Just because with Shadow, the higher the larger the amount of damage you can do per mana point spent increases your mana efficiency. So it changes your priorities. I think I have like 3 or 4 pieces that I use in both. But this is an exciting time. This can actually work. I know it's a bit of a meme spec. But the other thing I really like is that you can still heal very, very well. Like you can heal, like, even with lesser gear, I could heal. Oh, let me switch to healing gear. Yeah, I switched to healing gear. I got over 1500 healing and 205 mana per 5 while casting, and that's without any outside buffs. And my heals still hit very nicely. And it is nice to be able to pop a is it a prayer of healing? I forget names. Yeah, just to be able to pop a prayer of healing on your group, and more often than not, you'll get a free smite out of it. But that, also on trash, I can either just keep spamming Holy Nova, and as soon as I get 1 kill, it doubles my spirit. Now, if I'm at like 600 spirit, with kings, I'm often close to 700. I get about a third of my spirit as spell damage. It's actually a little bit higher than that, but that's complicated. So let's say I'm just at 600 and I get my spirit doubled. Okay, that is 200 spell power when I have the spirit tap buff up. That is significant. Also, regenerating mana like a mother. So if you're getting bored, you're getting near the end of the expansion, and you're looking for something interesting to do, I highly recommend trying out the Gladiator Warrior or the Smite Priest. If you'll know you're doing well if you're triggering people by outperforming them with a weird spec, with a non-pure DPS spec. I am the Expert Layman. You all have a great day.